Sagheer Mufti, Chief Operating Officer, Abhi Bank Limited, Pakistan, to deliver his speech.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Being the first speaker is always a fun thing to do. I was just reminded that we have 45 minutes to cover all of us. So I'm going to try and make sure I'm very brief. I'm going to make sure I just share with you a few things to ponder over rather than give you a speech. So my apologies to you, there's no speech, but some ideas to discuss and think about. My name is Sagheer. I'm going to talk to you about digital, which has not much to do with the topic that was discussed earlier on, but I hope you will see why it's relevant to today's world. I hope you'll see why we need to talk about it in the context of anything we think about, including defense security. You can see that in short time, a lot can happen today. In 1 minute, 18 million text messages go around the world, believe it or not. In 1 minute, 1 million logins happen on Facebook. So a minute is a lot of time now. And the reason that's very important to understand is that we need to start thinking about digital faster than we are as a community and a country and a group. Digital is moving very fast, and if countries don't think about it, there will be consequences of that. And that's my hypothesis, which I'm going to share with you over the next few minutes. The first thing that I would like to share with you is, what is it? Because there's a lot of confusion about digital. A lot of people think about digital as the physical attributes of digital. And the physical attributes of digital, they're enablers, but that's not what digital is about. So we need to figure out what is digital. In the physical attributes, people talk about the number of mobile phones in a country, internet connections. People talk about what number of services we are buying from them. The numbers are pretty interesting there. There are countries where over $1 trillion of trade now happens on digital, if you look at e-commerce. The countries which are just starting, like Pakistan, and we're already doing $600 million of trade on e-commerce. And it's a very new phenomenon in Pakistan. Internet connections, again, in a country like Pakistan, where there are resource limitations which we're trying to overcome, we have 50 million connections in a population of 200. Yes, there are other countries with that close to hitting 1 billion connections. So, to me, physical attributes are not necessarily how you measure digital. And I think that's one thing we need to become very clear about. Then there's some formal definitions, like there's a Society for Telecommunication Worldwide, and they claim that digital is about the transformation triggered by massive adoption of digital technology. Now, what the hell does that mean? I honestly don't know. They're nice words from some dictionary. To me, that's too vague. So the first thing to understand is why digital is moving fast and we need to adopt. The second thing is, what is it? In that, my first submission is, do not go by the physical attributes. If you don't go by the physical attributes, then one other way to look at it is, who are the players in it? Maybe we look at them and try to understand something. If you look at the players in the world, they're changing very fast. Just look at which were the companies which dominated the world a few years ago, 20 years ago. Oil companies, pharmaceuticals, banks. This is a slide which tells you the market value of each of those companies. And look at who dominates the world today and by what scale and size. None of those companies which were at the top 20 years ago are there anymore. Exxon's, Citi, GE, Walmart, at the peak were about $500 billion, so $500 billion. Two companies crossed $1 trillion in value just in the last few weeks. Who are those two companies? They're both digital, right? Thank you, sir. Both start with A, Apple and Amazon. So these are the players who are emerging. And the takeaway from this is, in this fast-moving world, companies which don't adopt get left behind. And I submit to you, countries which don't adopt will get left behind also. And they will get left behind by a huge margin. So it's important we start understanding digital and what role it plays. So what, if it's not the size of the companies, if it's not the companies, if it's not the physical attributes, what's digital? Okay, let's start talking a little bit about it. I think there are some key attributes to look at. We have gone from a time frame of production, whether it was in the factory line, in the agriculture, mineral coming out of the ground, being important, to the digital age, where what's important is click satisfaction. What's click satisfaction? It's how fast, how easily you can get to what you want in terms of information, transaction, execution of the transaction, and management of the transaction. It can be for a bank, it can be for a retail store, it can be for a pharmaceutical, it can be in any industry. It's the click satisfaction. Second thing is, it's 24/7, anytime, anywhere. Third, its impact is across borders. Despite all the discussions we are hearing about protectionism today, and the world is talking about protectionism a lot, you cannot stop the flow of digital information. There is a lot of challenges being put to it, no successful blockages. So whatever happens in this space can happen in multiple countries very fast. And then the most important thing is, a lot of this is driven by data. Data becomes king. Data is the new oil. Yes, I know we're in the Middle East. Yes, we know there's a lot of oil around us. But it's not necessarily going to be the driver of the economies going forward. So we need to understand how to harness these capabilities to be successful as corporates or as countries. If that's the case, we need to look at what these companies are really doing, what these countries are doing, what is digital. To me, digital is just three things. It's a mindset change. It's thinking about things in a very radical way. An example from a corporate world, when I think about digital services, I think about how not to offer a loan to a customer in days, but minutes. So you don't go from 10 days to 5 days to 7 days to 1 day. No, in one go, you do something which was taking 2 weeks in 1 minute. That's thinking differently. If you look at what is happening in the social sector, microfinance, financial inclusion. You talk about not adding a few thousand customers, you talk about adding a few billion, million customers. That's huge. So you have to think radical to be successful in the digital world. Second is that people, intellectual capital becomes much more important. So talent becomes critical, more critical than in the past. When you increase farm production and double the productivity in the farm, you could do it by adding pesticide and the number of people working on a farm. When you increase the production line to make a car, a plane, you could do it by adding the automation in the assembly line, and with it, the number of assembly lines, the number of people working on the assembly line. In this world, that does not work. In this world, it can be one young kid sitting in a garage making $1 billion company. Think of Jeff Bezos. Think of what happened this morning. The two people who created Instagram just left Facebook. They made $1 billion from a little thing which you can tap, maybe just send pictures, basically. And they left the company, and it was the headline news this morning on all the news channels. It's about people, talent. Talent is key in this world. And the last thing is risk-taking culture. This is a world of the unknown. I don't know how many of us Star Trek fans, it's about the starship going nowhere man has gone before. You have to do things which have not been done before. You have to look at things differently. You have to experiment and you have to learn to fail. If you fail, you will figure out why you failed and you will do it better the next time. And that's a very different way of thinking about it. So I leave for you this thought that digital is not the physical attributes. Digital is not about resources of any type. It's simply about mindset change, talent, and risk-taking culture. And I think this is something which applies to companies and countries. So we have a lot of distinguished people here from the policy-making functions of the various governments. And I just want to leave them with the idea of what the impact can be. There are various studies which have been done. And in public policy, there are three things which are very important for digital. How to maximize adoption, how to maximize the utilization, and the impact. And if you do this and you get this right, there will be an economic benefit from it. How much the economic benefit varies. How much the economic benefit is can be a number different by country, but I assure you, sir, the definition is there, the data is there to show economic benefit. There's a chart which was done last year by a university which shows the companies investing in technology, countries investing in technology tend to do higher GDP output. There's a study done, it's a little old, the data can be 30%, 50% more than this or less than this. But clearly, you can have job creation and you can have an impact on GDP. So this stuff is real. It impacts all aspects of the economy, civil and defense. It adds to the strength of the country if you are able to make digital a power in your country, in your company. A new study was done just recently which shows for every 10% improvement in your digital score, you can get approximately 1% improvement in your GDP growth. So with that thought, I leave you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We heard an interesting talk by Mr.